Okay, revolutionary greetings to you all, comrades. Welcome to our Thursday Consciousness Study Group, where we basically dedicate Thursdays as our tradition for the last almost 3 years for the study of conscientism or conscientism. And conscientism is actually the book written by Kwame Nkrumah himself. It's the ideology and philosophy for the colonization of Africa. So Nkrumah wrote an ideology and philosophy for the colonization of Africa. And that ideology and philosophy was packaged in this book called Consciousism. And the philosophy and ideology is consciousnm as it is. So we have been doing our regular weekly studies for the last almost 3 years virtually. But the study has been going on for the last almost 10 years physically before it moved virtually. So at this particular moment, we are in chapter 3 of the book, which is the society and ideology. We have moved from philosophy and society. We moved from philosophy in retrospect. We moved from the introduction. And now we are in society and ideology. And in society and ideology, particularly, we are focusing on how ideology influences society. And we are now learning, before we were learning actually, physical means of impacting ideology. And we're looking at what we call the dominant segments, cohesion, but now we have been studying what we call subtle instruments of ideology, those that you cannot easily predict or tell. And we started from history, and we realized that there is always a perennial connection between ideological standpoint and history, and how history of Africa was misrepresented. And we have moved from there to where we were now looking at arts. We have looked at how art was being used in European, in Soviet Union, and in Africa, and sample of how even church or religion use as well arts to pass the ideology. Now, today we are looking at philosophy as also an instrument, a subtle instrument of ideology. And I invite you all to join us, and we are happy to also welcome one of our brothers from Uganda, who I think is joining us from the first time, Brother Ojuang Eric. Kelly, I'll allow you to introduce yourself to our membership fully before I go ahead to introduce. But Brother Yuan, please feel free to come in and introduce yourself and what you're doing in Uganda, and you feel most welcome to our class. Comrade Yuan, please.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I feel so glad and honored to be here. Actually, I searched about this whole thing consensusism, and I tried relaying it to my ideology head, the Uganda People's Congress. So when they checked through, they really gave me a go-ahead and said, okay, let us try this out. So I must say I am a congressman, Uganda People's Congress. I know all of you remember that, the party that gave us independence. We are about our Independence Day celebrations month coming, October. So I am glad to be here. As a new person, I believe I will have to first sit in class and listen a bit before I begin to bring in what I feel would be right. But for now, I am glad to be. I've heard someone is in Malawi telling us about how the winds can disturb or disappoint or make us happy in Africa. There is somebody from Scotland. My brother should be in Kenya here. And somebody I had a name from Ghana. Yeah, thank you. I feel happy. I'm finally at home. I feel happy. I'm a Pan-African. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Juan. We should be expecting more of the people from Uganda People's Congress joining us, and we might be having a discussion on them because it's a political party that was formed by Milton Obote so many years ago, and it's been pushing some Pan-African or progressive issues in Uganda as much as we have also other political factions there. So we'll be looking forward to more of the team from Uganda People's Congress joining us. So to you all, comrades, feel most welcome. As I've said, we have Sister Ada with us here, of course, from both sides of the continent, UK, Africa. We have Sister Tapua in Zimbabwe next there. We have Sister Kanita also, both sides, Ghana out. We have Elder Sam from South Africa is here with us, one of the veteran elder in the Pan-African struggle. We have Sir Windhoek with us from Namibia, Sister Chisoma Suel from both sides of Malawi and the rest. So we are a family, and more of us will be joining us so that we can continue with our studies as usual. Now, as part of our tradition, so to do is that we read the paragraph highlighted, then you go around to ask each member to share their thoughts on this. This is the writing of Kwame Nkrumah. It is pointing to us in this book some issues that we must learn and must be able to understand as Pan-Africans. What we share here is our thinking. So we encourage members to think rather than to understand, because our conversation is about your thought process. What do you think of the text? So, as usual, feel most welcome to all of you. I know more members will be joining us as we move along, and our chair, Brother Kwame, will be joining us as also we move along. So, any of our comrades who is willing to read for us the two paragraphs highlighted, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read as usual.
Sister Tapua.
Yeah. Okay. Philosophy, too, is one of the subtle instruments of ideology and social cohesion. Indeed, it affords a theoretical basis for the cohesion. In The Republic of Plato, we are confronted with an example in which philosophy is made the theoretical basis of a proposed social order. In that proposal, philosophy would be an instrument of the ideology belonging to the social order proposed by Plato. Philosophy performs this function in two ways. It performs it as a general theoretical statement to which a specific social-political theory is paralleled. I have illustrated this in the discussion of some early Greek philosophers in the second chapter. Philosophy also performs this ideological function when it takes shape as political philosophy or as ethics. Through political philosophy, it lays down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification, and it becomes an instrument of unity by laying down the same ideals for all the members of a given society.
Thank you very much, Sister Tapua. This is the first time we are now introducing philosophy as an instrument of ideology. So this might be the part one. And therefore, I will not read the previous paragraph where we were finishing on art and particularly on the Soviet Union. But now we are getting to philosophy, which as I'll do, I will read it again slowly. But as I do that, take your time also to digest the text. And once I finish, I will now go around and call members to share their thoughts. My second reading is for the purpose of you now to digest this text so that when I call upon members to share their thoughts, at least you shall have formed some thought process with this. And also allow maybe Sister Tapua also to build our thought process in this text as I'm reading it again. So Nkrumah says that philosophy, too, which means it's now added on history and the arts you have read before, is one of the subtle instruments of ideology and social cohesion or cohesion. Indeed, it affords a theoretical basis for the cohesion. Now, in the Republic of Plato, we are confronted with an example in which philosophy is made the theoretical basis of a proposed social order. Now, in that proposal, philosophy will be an instrument of the ideology belonging to the social order proposed by Plato. Now, the second paragraph is that philosophy performs this function in two ways. So probably you're looking at the first way. It performs it as a general theoretical statement to which a specific socio-political theory is parallel. That's Nkrumah, have illustrated this in discussion of some early Greek philosophers in the second chapter, where we talk of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the rest. Now, philosophy also performs this ideological function when it takes shape as political philosophy or ethics. Probably the second part of this. Through political philosophy, it lays down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification. And it becomes an instrument of unity by laying down the same ideals for all the members of a given society. That's our reading. So once again, feel most welcome. As you've said, we always go around and ask members to share their thoughts. But let me first of all engage any member who is willing to share their thought first. There's a comrade who has joined us with the Nokia C10. Kelly, let us know who you are so that we can either change your name. Nokia C10, unmute yourself and let us know who you are. Or maybe I can check the video. Sister Ida, you can help me check the video. If I think the video is on. Okay. Yeah. Nokia
Hello?
C10, can you introduce yourself?
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hello, who is this, please, comrade?
Hello? Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello?
But you can confirm. Yes. Nokia C10, can you let us know your name?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is, hello? My name is
Yes, go ahead.
Joseph Pius Adoki. My name is
Okay.
Joseph Pius Adoki Otoke.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Yes.
Now let's go ahead with the sharing of our thoughts. So who want to start first?
I've got questions.
Let's first of all deal with the definitions first. Definitions and anything of that sort. So let's start from there first, as usual. Sister Atapua?
Because I'm thinking we need to remind ourselves of what philosophy is, and also ideology and ideological function, because there's philosophy being related to social order and cohesion, and then influencing ideological function. And then there's that interesting word, ethics. Maybe someone could help us with the meanings of any one, or remind us of what philosophy is. Mhm. Mhm.
Are you seeing my other screen? I've moved to the definition of philosophy. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Now, let's read that brief explanation a bit. That philosophy is defined as a systematic study of fundamental questions. Of course, from the origin of the word, sometimes they say philo is the love of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
As actually, you can always know about it, that philo is coming from the word, the love of knowledge. But here we say that philosophy is defined as the systematic study of fundamental questions concerning existence, knowledge, value, and mind. It's often described as the love of course, as wisdom. So that's basically what they call the philosophy to be all about. But initially, we have looked back to, you can go to the deep dive of philosophy, which is the study of, this is the most important thing. Philosophy is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. Now, in the first paragraph of this book that Nkrumah refers to in the first chapter, we looked at what we call philosophy in retrospect. And when you look at philosophy in retrospect, what we are looking at is we were handling two main questions. We were asking about the universe and nature. And from there, the two questions were what there is and how what there is. And the key things was, what is the universe made up of? And how that which the universe made up of is coming into being. So from that element, we discovered that there are two thoughts, school of thoughts. I want to put this definition of philosophy into this context. There are two schools of thought. There are people who believe that the universe is made up of ideas and spirits. Look at the example of Berkeley and other philosopher. Let me remember the name. There's another philosopher apart from Berkeley. And the second people believe that the universe is made up of matter. Now, those two fundamental questions of nature bring us closely to define the philosophical standpoints. And from there, we understood that the universe, as Nkrumah concluded in the first chapter, and probably I can take you to that because it can help us to link to what we are talking now. As Nkrumah concludes in the first chapter, Nkrumah takes us back to define that the universe, to the question of the philosophy, is that the universe is made up of matter. So if you look a bit, you see, Nkrumah introduced what he call idealism, as those who believe that the universe is made up of ideas. But the biggest thing, what we are coming up with, we are trying now to go to the roots of what is philosophy based on the two questions. What is the universe made up of, and how that which the universe made up of is. So in that conclusion, I'm trying to look at the conclusion of that chapter. Nkrumah takes us that the universe is made up of matter and its natural law. Yeah. Now, if you look at this last chapter, yeah, after questioning the whole entirety of what the universe is made up of as a philosophical question of nature, the final word is in the last line, that Nkrumah concludes that our universe is a natural universe, and its basis is matter with its objective law. So from this, out of the construction of this Nkrumah's book, we arrive from the beginning of the book that there are two philosophies, two main philosophies, which are trying to answer what the universe is made up of. And those two main philosophies are materialism or idealism. The idealism that tries to explain the universe as made up of spirits and ideas. Materialism that tries to explain the universe as made up of matter with its objective laws. So our universe is a natural universe. It's not made up of ideas and spirits. It's a natural universe. Now, when you go to chapter 2 of this book now, Nkrumah try now to concentrate on how now the philosophy affects the society. And that's where now Nkrumah has tried to bring us to elements. So from just a bit of explanation on the philosophy, on what I can explain in context with what we've been reading, is that philosophy connected to what we have understand is trying to explain the nature. And in this book, Nkrumah asked the nature in two ways. What is our universe made up of? And how that came to be? And out of that conclusion, Nkrumah introduced us to two main philosophies, which is idealism or materialism. Now, you can now see where ideologies sometimes come in. If you are called a capitalist, conservatives, you call yourself socialism or whatever, is where do you root your mind? Do you root your argument from materialism philosophy or from idealism philosophy. And when we move to chapter 2, we looked at issues with egalitarianism in a society and individualism. So you see, if you believe in idealism, you can't match with individualism and hierarchies in society. And that's what Nkrumah is trying to describe when he says that he describes some of the Greek philosophers on their argument of their society. People believe that there is differences in a society because there must be a hierarchy. There's a king, a spirit, somebody, a divine being, on people down here. But those who believe in the element of materialism did not believe in those hierarchies in society. They believe that every person in the society come from the same matter, and therefore every person is the same, and advocated for what he called an egalitarian society. And Nkrumah used examples of, for example, the Socrates example, if you can remember, where he was trying to prove that the slave boy could do the same issue or the same task that people of who are called learned in the society could do. And those other things now come in, and the church issues, the doctrines. So that takes us to chapter 2, where Nkrumah is dealing now deeply of how the philosophy as described in chapter 1, if you are a materialist and idealism, how now do they contrast in the society? That's why chapter 2 is philosophy and society. Now, chapter 3 now, Nkrumah is trying now to delve deep in those now ideologies that are rooted and linked from chapter 1, chapter 2, and now moving to chapter 3. So those are the few things I'd like to explain, but anybody else can add on that. Any member who want to add anything on that? I'm not saying I'm perfect on this. I'm asking any member who like also to add something on that philosophy as a definition. Anybody? Elder Sam? Or anybody who's willing?
Just to say thank you very much for the succinct summary and reminder. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody want to add any definition of the philosophy before we move to the next context?
Brother
The next
PJ.
item?
Hello, Brother PJ.
Yes, Elder Sam.
Am I audible well?
Yeah, you are audible.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody on the platform. Just a little addition. It's not really much in contrast to what you have said. I think the emphasis here is that with philosophy, we are using this theoretical knowledge to understand the world, to seek what the world looks like to us, and we explore the highest or the vastest area about knowledge of the world. I think this is where philosophy is. It is broad. It encompasses the whole universe basically. And then when you come to ideology, we are narrowing down to society. Having known what the world looks like, which we have now come to understand that it is idealistic or materialistic, then we narrow it in order to govern and to guide society with ideology. And you know, if we go broadly, you will see that the world has evolved through many ideologies, because then after they've discovered the idealistic world wanted to continue with basically what we have come to know as capitalism, and the materialist world came up with this, what we now, some of us call Pan-Africanism, other people call socialism and communism. But basically, those are the broad spheres, that philosophy and ideology. So the bigger philosophy guides the ideology that needs to be followed in society. Thanks.
Thank you, Elder Sam. Now, Sister Tapua, or anybody else want to add on that? Sister Tapua, you can ask the next question. What was it about?
Okay, the next question was relating to the function of ideology in society. How does ideology influence the social structure?
Now, that might be now us sharing our thinking, because that now will not be a perfect definition. So somebody might either try to share the thoughts, and maybe we can try to answer that. But it's a process of sharing your thoughts rather than a definition.
I think what we also need to go over is, because there's that important reference in the second sentence about the Republic of Plato. we just need a reminder of what this is about, because it says there, in the Republic of Plato, we are confronted with an example in which philosophy is made the theoretical basis of a proposed social order. So just a revision of what the social order that was proposed in the Republic is.
Now, thank you, Sister Topo, for that. I think some of us might have engaged with that book in an extensive way. When the book, The Republic, I was actually still naive in the political consciousness. But I think in that book, Plato is trying to explain how a republic is formed. How do we come up with a republic? And if I could read it very well, I think when I remember the book, Plato is trying to describe what need necessitated the formation of a republic, and how did the people come together to that process of having a republic being. So the idea is that there were traders and there were buyers, there were either fishermen, and there were everybody in the society. And therefore, there was a need for them to come together, come up with laws and policies on how they could trade and interact with each other so that they could actually advance their activities in a society. But remember, in chapter 2 a bit, and I will allow somebody to explain much on the Republic, but in chapter 2 a bit, remember Nkrumah is introducing us to Plato, if some of you can remember. And when he introduces us to Plato, Nkrumah is trying to contrast between Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. But we are told very well that Socrates advocated for what we believe as an equal society. And you remember very well, we've been told that actually Socrates never wrote any book. The writings about Socrates was done by Plato, and Plato was the disciple of Socrates. But Plato diverted a bit from the teachings and the practices of Socrates, because Socrates was believing in a society that is equal. And that's why there's a book quoted, a manual quoted and written by Plato called the Manual. And in the Manual, Socrates introduced the slave boy to show that that slave boy, irrespective of his stature in a society that categorizes him as a slave boy, he could be able to solve the complex mathematical issues or complex tasks in a society if given that task and allowed. Now, that is what Socrates advocated too much on, equality and egalitarianism in a society, which was basically rooted on materialism. And when people talk of materialism, not in the context of the love of material welfare, but materialism based on the fact that we all come from the same matter, so equality of people in a society. Now, when Socrates introduced Plato, and when Nkrumah introduced Plato, we know that Plato was the disciple of Socrates who walked away from the Socrates teaching. And Plato then advocated for what we call the hierarchical societal existence, which maybe you can now call the idealistic society, that there's a hierarchy and structure in a society, that there are teachers and their servants and their slaves and their kings and their whatever they call them. And therefore, Plato is trying to introduce some level of inequality in a society, which probably is trying to extend it in his book, Republic. How is a republic formed? The inequality in a society in a republic where there's a kings and slaves and everybody else. Now, Nkrumah tried to disagree with that a bit, and Nkrumah conclude that chapter 2, if I can remember, by saying that irrespective of the functional differences in a society, which means irrespective of a person being a farmer, a doctor, a king, or whatever you call them, a bishop, or a pastor, or whatever you call them, irrespective of functional differences in society, it does not take away the intrinsic worthiness of a person, which means there's an intrinsic equality of persons irrespective of their functional difference in a society, which means that whom you call a slave is an equal human being and equal to that person called a king. And therefore, you cannot treat that person you call a slave in a society as a mere human being because he's a slave in a society and that somebody is a king above him. So Nkrumah introduced that we can have a society where we have doctors, teachers, engineers, and presidents, but that do not take away that one category of a person is more equal than the other category of a person in the same society. They are all equal beings, and what they are performing is just different functions. And it goes extra even to the gender level. The fact that one person is a woman and another person is a man do not make any of them a lesser being. They are all equal. The fact that one person is a child and another person is an adult, they are all equal in a society. So I think basically when you talk of the republic, I think Nkrumah refers to this, to the argument of how now Plato's philosophy was trying to build up on idealism and how society is formed on hierarchies and those structures in a society. So that is just my little try to explain, and I'm sharing my thinking on this. Anybody who wish to share their thinking on that Plato and the Republic, maybe you're also free to come in before we go to the general text on this. Anybody want to come in? Anybody who can remember that? I've just tried to tie it to this context of our reading as well. Anybody? Oh, today you're making me a professor. Like Brother Kwame, I'm just trying. Sister Ida. Sister Ida. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I really can't. It's very noisy around here. I can just about hear you all. So sorry.
Okay. Okay. Elder Sam, do you want to come in?
Yeah, Brother Pigeon, just a little bit of what I still remember. Remember this philosopher Plato came with those basic theories that encompassed basically, if I can still remember, mainly what he called epistemology, which is the study of ethics. And he had ethics basically as the study of the morality, whether the morality in society is right or wrong, good or bad. And he also based his study on the fact that we must study society and the physical world beyond what we sometimes see as reality. And then he ended up by saying we should study or investigate the beauty or the taste in our phenomenon or the world that we live in. And in this, his philosophy was that the world must be just. It must be ruled by just people. And where there is justice, there will be happiness. And if there's happiness and the world is ruled by those knowledgeable philosophers, then there will be harmony in society. Basically, that was the republic or what the ideal city that he was talking about, because they called it the republic, but basically was talking about an ideal city where people will live just happiness and ruled basically by these philosophers. And he basically described that as the laborers, the philosophers, and the kingmakers, basically. Thanks.
Thank you for adding to that, Elder Sam. Because I remember even, I think he was promoting a bit of, you can call it discrimination or hierarchy in some level, that some people are either born slaves, some are born kings, some are born kingmakers. And therefore you could not walk away from that your structure. And that was contrary to what Socrates and what materialism stand for. But anybody want to come in on the same text? Or Sister Tapo, if you want to comment on the same question you've asked? Anybody? Okay, we are just in the initial stages of sharing some key issues that are of question. But remember, we would go along and ask each person to share their thoughts after this. Sister Tapoa, are you okay with the response given so far, or do you want also to comment on something? Okay.
If I may come in, Sister Paul also asked about ethics. And I think I'd like us to maybe also talk about that, because I have an idea of what I think ethics is, but I'd be interested in what other people have to say about it.
No, Sister Ida, start with your idea first.
Yeah. I think my idea, because I quite often say when I hear things that I don't, or when things are happening that I think, I say I don't think that's very ethical, when I don't believe that people are being necessary, truthful. So I'm not quite sure. I know that it involves that right is done, that people should do things in a right way. When don't ask me what a right way is, but when I hear things that I think aren't right, I think it's unethical. That's the best way I can describe it. Thank you.
Thank you. But Sister Tapua, let me go back to you. Do you have any comment on the initial question you had asked, and whether we can go ahead and then contribute to the ethical element? Sister Tapua?
I think we can go ahead and contribute to the element.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, as we have said, we don't always share sometimes what we call is perfect, but we share our thoughts. So it's a free space that you can try and share what you think, and we don't actually either stigmatize you for that or either question you for that or put you in the spotlight. You are free to share your thoughts because we are building thought process, which then brings consciousness. Now, ethics, Elder Sam, you had actually described ethic a bit and trying to tie it to some ideology and some morality. Will you be able maybe to catch up on that as you try to explain the ethical element on this? Because I know you touch on ethics a bit when you're doing your definition.
Yes, Brother Pigeon and members on the platform. I think it is important that we also keep having on this aspect that the world that we have come to know rests on these two basic worlds: idealistic world and materialistic world. And the difference between the two will always be where they talk of ethics, which is the right and wrong that society must, or individuals in society must identify and live according to. There will always be a contrast. In an idealistic world, in capitalistic world, it will be right for an individual to oppress another, to exploit another. It will be right for somebody to have much in abundance and then somebody to be the poor of the poorest. And that will be ethical in that society. But we know that that is not the ideal world that we all say, because the greater philosophy says all men are equal in society. Therefore, if we are all equal, there shouldn't be somebody who's lying, hungry, and we take it is correct. And there should be somebody who's super rich, and then there's somebody who has totally nothing. That is the morality that we should look into. In the material world, where we say, or we Pan-Africanists, we have agreed that in our Pan-African world, we believe in the equality of all of us. We believe in the humanity or Ubuntu that we are preaching. And we are saying this philosophy will unite us so that we can share equally what we have. And this is the material world that we believe in, that we feel we have. So this morality, I want to emphasize, we must understand it will be there in the capitalist world, where they agree that we can exploit and be super rich when others are poor, and actually being the laborers that bring the richness that we get. And then in this world that we are trying to go towards, we will see morality as being equal, sharing everything equal, and then all in unity and in brotherhood. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. What is ethics? I said the ethics is the discipline of concern with what is morally good and bad, or what is morally right and wrong. So that's basically the ethics. So the term may refer to the philosophical study of concepts of moral right and wrong, moral good and bad, to any philosophical theory of what is morally right or wrong, all about that, and any system or codes of moral rules or principles and values. So that's about ethics. I'll just make it that brief as it is and ask Sister Tapua, is that definition also okay with what you think, or what can you add on that?
Absolutely. It's exactly spot on. I think it clarifies a few issues. And I think Brother Sam has also covered it, that right and wrong, good and bad are relative, depending on which system you're in.
Okay, thank you. So, comrades, I think we have been able to try to define some of the few words that were of contention. And it's our always practice to, first of all, define the terminologies that are very difficult. And we will now and then move to the second part, where each
Brother
member
Pidgin.
now, yes, oh, Sawindok,
Fortification.
fortification, Sister Tapua, get
Yes.
Brother Sawindok the meaning of fortification.
All right. The root word in the word fortification is fort, a protection. So to fortify is to protect against. So when we're saying the sentence, it lays down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification. In other words, for us to be steadfast in a position.
Sawindok?
Yes.
Is that helpful?
Yes, it is, in a way.
Fortify, you can either say it to solidify or make it very strong, or to ground it.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
make it stronger, make it protected, or you ground it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just relative to what she's been saying all along. That is that element of trying to bring some strength and make it stronger, like a fort, something very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that also might help a bit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we are moving in the second part now. We've taken a lot of time today in the first part, but I believe in the process of this first part, some of us have also been able to share that thought. So in the second part now, we ask members to share with us what you think on the text or the paragraph. You can do a general summary of a whole paragraph on what you think. You can go sentence by sentence, word by word, in whatever format you like. You feel free to share your thoughts. And now I'll start with Sister Kanita. Sister Kanita?
Yes, thank you. So it appears to me that I'm probably the least proficient in this in the writings of this book. I'm familiar with the book, and I'm reading it along with you, so I've not read it in its entirety.
No, you're not least. Just take that out. You are not least. You should not appear that.
And
Sister
Kanita, I'm definitely behind you.
Yeah. As I'm listening to this and the different, I'm trying to just hold on to every word. I'm taken aback by what Nkrumah has been exposed to is not too dissimilar than what the rest of us has been exposed to, and that is a Eurocentric idea of philosophy and ethics and ideology and all of these types of things. And so it seems to me that what it leaves us anthropologically impoverished. And so I thought to myself, if I'm teaching my psychology students when I used to teach psychology at the university or in the States, or if I'm teaching my children or my grandchildren this particular text that we're going through, paragraph by paragraph, what would I do, knowing what I know? And what I would do with them is what I did with my psychology students. I would first present them with a timeline so that they could understand the civilizations that were around thousands of years before these Greeks. And then they would naturally say, well, then what was their philosophy? What was their ethical, what was their ethics? What was their, all of these things, right? Their system of knowing and all of these types of things. And I would approach it from that angle by virtue of the fact that it exceeds this civilization of these Greeks by literally thousands of years. And so those earliest writings, those earliest things that we could access, that we can begin to put together, I would identify that information, as our dear brother Theophile Obenga has done in his works, to then begin to not only speak to the ideal of philosophy as a subtle instrument of ideology, if we would even formulate it that way, but we would also critique Greek culture itself and how it presumes to be the gold standard of moral and ethical codes. We even understand in our brother's book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, I'm blocking the author's name right now, how even in
That's Chancellor
slavery
Williams.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Williams, how slavery was even a very different concept in early Kemetic society and early African societies than it was in the Arab enslavement, which still continues to this day, of people, as well as the European enslavement. It was qualitatively very different. And while no one looked forward to and enjoyed being a slave, we know from historical evidence that it was qualitatively a very, very different type of system from culture to culture. So I would not want my children or my students to think that the Greeks, who are the new kids on the block, are the gold standard or the authority on this issue. But I would rather want to give them a broader context to understand not only how other people thought about it, but I would also want them to understand the ways in which Nkrumah and the rest of us were taught and made to believe. And therefore, our default drive is to this people group rather than more ancient people groups, and particularly with African people, why it is that we struggle so hard to find philosophy and philosophical thought, high sciences among our own ancient writings and teachings and societies, why that is such a difficult thing. I would also help them to understand that, as well as I also help them to understand how the Greeks began to borrow and plagiarize and then model some of their thought and some of their societies, not only off of us, but off of other people groups as well. So this is probably where I sit and sort of ponder not only what you've taught me this evening about these particular paragraphs, but also what happened to our dear brother, that he was choreographed the way that he was, as well as the rest of us. And then it also strengthens my own resolve to go to our own sources for this same type of information, which those who know far, far, far more than I do know that it's a richer text of data. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, sister. Can't add more on that. I think you're bringing a very important element to this conversation. And permit me, first of all, to recognize the presence of our chair. Brother Kwame, feel most welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's taken me a while to join because as you know, I'm mobile, so it's very hard to sometimes join. But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Brother Kwame. Now, Sawindok, please go ahead. Sawindok?
I've landed.
No, it's okay, sister. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that. Sawindok.
Yes, I thought I understood fortification in the context of that sentence, but it's kind of puzzling me. Maybe I should read that sentence. Through political philosophy, It lays down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification, and it becomes an instrument of unity by laying down the same ideals for all the members of a given society. So, idealism and materialism in context, contrasted or complemented by political philosophy. How does that marry each other?
Thank you for the question. I don't know if Brother Kwame is already in a capacity to do that, but any member who might help, first of all, Sir Windhoek, to answer the question he's asking.
Yeah. Well,
Any member?
yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
is
you
a
can
Windhoek?
try.
Yeah. Why is a Windhoek using the word political philosophy um, in that statement? Because he's using the word political philosophy in line with the text that he's just read. So this paragraph is talking about the instrument, and so far we have understood that there are many instruments of ideology. History has been mentioned, art has been mentioned, and so many other things. So it's like saying that there is something called art philosophy, you understand, or you say educational philosophy. We use that kind of language, but the context in which we are, for us, philosophy, there are only two philosophies. There are idealism and materialism. So let's not use philosophy in a different sense. If Sewidok is asking about politics as an instrument, that's a different question. Okay, so I thought I will just clarify that, because how we use language also helps us to understand what it is we are reading and how we see it ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Let me help a bit by going back to the paragraph before that, because no, the sentence before that. The sentence before that says that
And
philosophy
maybe before
also.
you proceed,
Okay.
Brother Pigeon, before you proceed, that's the language of Brother Kwame Nkrumah. Is the one who said through political philosophy.
No, Sir Windhoek, I
Thank
wanted
you.
to help by reading the paragraph before. The paragraph before says as follows, Sir Windhoek, that philosophy, because we start by that paragraph by saying two things, that philosophy performs this function, which is the instrument of ideology, in two ways. And we say that first, it performs it as a general theoretical statement, to which a specific social or political theory is parallel. And he said that he has illustrated that in second chapter. Now, the second element is where you're asking. He says that philosophy also performs this ideological function. Which ideological function? Now, when it takes shape as political philosophy or as ethics. Now, you say through political philosophy, and what Brother Kwame is asking is reminding us very important. We understand philosophy in two ways, as he has said, either materialism or idealism. So let's look at it that philosophy can perform its subtle function of ideology if it takes political or ethical diversion. Now, if it takes political diversion, look at it either it takes politics either as idealist philosophy or either as materialist philosophy. And that's why it says it lays now down certain ideas. So if it is materialist philosophy, you know what it will lay down. If it idealist philosophy, in politics also you know what it can lay down. And those ideas it lay down fortify that society. It brings those society together. It makes them united and in solidarity. You see? So I'm trying also to connect those dots for you, maybe to help also try to understand that line as well. Sister Tapo, you wanted to come in?
I think you've just said what I'd wanted to say, because I was looking at the topic sentence of the first paragraph. Philosophy, too, is one of the subtle instruments of ideology and social cohesion. So that topic sentence tells us that this paragraph and the next is on social cohesion of whatever ideology, philosophy, the essential instruments to achieve social cohesion. The last sentence of the second paragraph concludes that it becomes an instrument of, the philosophy becomes an instrument of uniting by laying down the same ideas for all the members of a given society. So, what it's saying for me is, if you belong to a particular society, you inevitably are given certain things that you have to believe in to be a member of that society, because that's part of the fortification. So capitalist people embedded in capitalist societies, subconsciously or unconsciously, are fortified in accepting that there will be people who are exploited and there will be people who take advantage of the others. But it's coated, it's given a coating in such a way that it's acceptable. So, for example, to reduce cognitive dissonance, they'll do charitable works, they will donate, they'll do all sorts of things, almost as a way of washing away their guilt. And that gives the society the fortification that it needs for both the exploiters and the exploited. So if we believe, for example, if we're African and we believe in Ubuntu, what we're saying is we are given on a day-to-day basis things that will help us to function under that philosophy. And the interesting thing for me is that whether you're idealist or materialist, whether you're capitalist or socialist, for any society to function, they've got to be people who perform certain roles, differentiated roles. And these the difference then comes in the rewards or the recognition that is given for each role. So you have the Plato-like where hierarchy is important and some people feel more special than others. And then you have where, whether you're the president or the cleaner, you're given the same respect. There's Ubuntu there. We are acknowledging that I am because you are, and I cannot exist without you. Whereas in a capitalist system, they'll say, well, it is me, it's my company, it's my job. The person will stand up there and point to themselves as being the person, and everybody else is just a cog in the machinery. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sawinok, back to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to ask Sewinok. I was going to ask Sachapoa whether she was helping Sewinok to understand the question that he was raising. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Sawinok,
Brother
back to
Fiji.
you.
Yeah, topically, I'm tempted to want to think that there are now three philosophies: the materialist philosophy, idealist philosophy, and political philosophy.
Oh, okay. What how about ethical philosophy? Because ethics is also mentioned.
Yeah,
Maybe fourth.
yeah.
It's okay.
So
Why
I
do you
think,
think like that?
yeah, can I come in there? Sewinok, I think
Yeah.
that you should not read that to mean there is a third philosophy. Read that to mean that the instrument of ideology is politics. Politics is an instrument of ideology. And in that sense, you can talk about political philosophy. And the same way as other people will talk about economic philosophy or the philosophy of art or the philosophy of anything. But for us, so remember in our discussion earlier, it was clear to us that in as much as philosophy, the idea, you remember, it's the philosophy, because then it wants the society to, if you like, adhere or to tend to the philosophical basis of that ideology. So they feed off each other. And you remember we had this extensive discussion earlier. So if you like, the term political philosophy there is not saying that there is a different philosophy apart from idealism and materialism. I want to say something about the paragraph, but I'll wait for Sir Windhoek to finish his thoughts, and then I'll come in. Thank you.
Brother Kwame, you have definitely answered my question.
Okay.
Because that's why I wanted to know the corollary between the two philosophies vis-a-vis the political philosophy. So the political philosophy is fusing in S.
Yeah, so for example, our sister Tapo was trying to explain, idealist philosophy can give rise to its own political philosophy. An example is the monarchy. So a monarchy is an example of an idealist philosophy, and you can say that monarchy is, if you like, a political philosophy. And then you can say that democracy is an instrument of materialism because it assumes that all of us are equal, whereas a monarchy says this person, that family is more equal than others. Yeah. So see the terminology there as an extension of the two fundamental philosophies. So
thank you.
Awindok, are you okay now?
I'm more than okay. I'm more than okay. Thank you.
Would you like to share your thoughts on other parts of the text before I give to Brother Kwame?
No, not now.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, Brother Kwame, if you wish, you can go ahead.
Yes. What I wanted to draw our attention to is that essentially what the paragraph is saying is that, you remember the Republic of Plato as a document says that, it basically lays down the basis of a social order, and we all recall that. And he said that philosopher kings should rule society, and so on and so forth. So what this paragraph is saying is that philosophy has two main functions. The way Nkrumah has written it, if you look elsewhere in the book, which we'll come to later, when Nkrumah talks about social political theory, what it means is economics. What economic system does that society have? So philosophy spells out for a society, it spells out an economic system for that society. That's the first thing it will do. And that is what the first line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what the first 5 sentences are saying. Sorry, there is talking in the background. So sorry about that. And yes, and the rest of that paragraph, starting from through political philosophy, it lays down certain ideas. That is the politics. So in other words, Nkrumah is saying that philosophy does 2 jobs. It spells out the economics of the society, and then it also spells out the political system. That basically is what this paragraph is telling us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Let's go to Sister Tapua. Did you share your thought? Or Sister Kanita is the one who started? Sorry.
Brother Bijan, before
Yes.
Brother Kwame goes too far, philosophy has two main functions, and I didn't catch them well there. Can you maybe just repeat?
Yeah, so what I was saying was that the paragraph before that, so Nkrumah is saying that in the Republic, remember Plato, so if you read what he's saying, we are confronted with an example in which philosophy is made the theoretical basis of a proposed social order. And in that proposal, that is in the Republic, Plato would, philosophy would be an instrument of the ideology belonging to the social order proposed by Plato. So Nkrumah is referring to the Republic. Yeah. So that is the document. And I'm saying that the two things that philosophy does in that paragraph are one, the social political theory, which basically is the economics. What economic theory does it use? And then the second one, which says through political philosophy, that one is the politics, the political system. And it makes clear that the purpose of a political system is to unify society. Yeah, so that's what it's saying. I don't know if I've answered your question, but
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll get to Sister Tapua. Did you share your thought, or it was Sister Kanita? One of the sister, if I remember. Okay. Then let me get to Elder Sam. Did you share your full thoughts on this? Is that something you want to share still on the text? Elder Sam?
Not really, Brother Pigeon. Just the emphasis from what Brother Kwame left. The political philosophy that Nkrumah is bringing up here, it is the manner that the society is being organized. And in that Plato or land or whatever you call it, Plato Republic, he divided that society into basically three main classes. And he said these are the laborers who will do the whole production. And then he said then there will be the people who are basically the auxiliaries, meaning those are the warriors who were going to guard and safeguard whatever is happening in that society. And then he crowned this by saying there will be the guardian rulers, what he called the king philosophers, those who will rule by virtue of being kings and having philosophical knowledge, and they will be upright to make that society just. And as we said, once that society is just, it will be happy, and if it is happy, there will be harmony. But we all know that that was an idealistic way of thinking and dividing society. But basically, that was the political philosophy he was talking about then. Thanks.
Thank you, Elder Sam.
Yeah. If I may add to what Elder Sam has just said, what Elder Sam has said is so crystal clear. So Brother Sam has kind of explained, gone further than I did in reminding us that this was Plato's political philosophy in the Republic. So I want to add to what Brother Sam has just said and say that the social political theory that Plato laid down in that book, again, Brother Sam has alluded to it, is a form of slavery. So some people will do all the work. And in that economic system, as Brother Sam has explained, some people will work, others will be in the military, and others will be the rulers. So that essentially is what that paragraph is talking about. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Now, let me get, we are having some few minutes to go, but of course, around 30 or so. Now, let me get to Mr. Windhoek, then. Yes, it's Tapua, please come in. Then I'll get to Nokia. You remind me your name again, and Brother Guang, Brother Kwame. We have members from UPC, some of them have joined us.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Ogwang Eric,
Right.
UPC is here. And I believe the members have also joined us, probably.
Right.
But you have some few members who have joined us.
Excellent. They're most welcome.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we will have a separate meeting with them and discuss a few things later.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Tapua?
Right. I've got a question. I'm seeking clarification. The second paragraph says philosophy performs this function in two ways. And in this paragraph, the two ways are listed. The first one is it performs it as a general theoretical statement to which a specific socio-political theory is parallel. I'm wondering what is parallel is referring to. Is it referring the philosophy to the socio-political theory that they are parallel?
Yeah. So
I
the
think
answer, the answer
the
is that the answer is that the specific social political theory is parallel in the sense that if a philosophy is saying that there must be a social order like a pyramid where you have a particular group at the top and a particular group at the bottom, says that, then you can imagine that the system that it will propose will not oppose that. It will be parallel to it. Parallel simply means side by side. They go together. So that is what he's saying. Am I making sense? If you are saying that things are not equal, some are more equal than others, and that's your social order, then your economic system that you're going to propose will parallel to that philosophy. It will say that in this economic system, some people must be at a certain order. There cannot be equality, if you like, in that economic system. So you'll have a boss who will tell everybody else what to do, and that boss will earn a lot of money, even though they do very little work or whatever. And so in other words, the philosophical position is parallel to the economic system will be parallel to the political philosophy. In other words, they will go together, just like two lines are parallel. When two lines are parallel, it means that they are together. They kind of when you see one, you see the other. I hope that helps, Sister Tapua.
Alignment.
Yes, thank you very. Thank you.
Hmm.
The second point that, because the paragraph says two ways. The second point, the sentence starts, through political philosophy, it lays down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification. Who is our here? Members of society?
Yes. Because remember, the ruling class wants everybody to follow the ideals, aren't they? The ideals that the ruling class sets out is not just for the ruling class; it's for everybody. They want everybody to live like that. They want everybody to accept that this society is a social order. It's an unequal social order, and you must accept your place in that social order. Yeah. So it's for everybody. Yeah.
And
So go on. I'm sorry, I'm getting off the next station, so I will be off for a few minutes before I join again on my mobile phone. But I'm here. When the train stops, I'll get off in a few minutes. Yeah, you carry on, please. Thank you.
Okay. No, I was just about to say, if our there is referring to everyone in a society, what we then need to be aware of is the fact that whether you're rich or poor, ruling class or the lower class, you're then convinced to pursue the American dream, as it were, that everything is for the taking, as long as you believe and as long as you're able to, believe in yourself, you will be successful.
We are now approaching Chichester.
And that is used to justify in a capitalist system why some people are successful and others are not, when we actually know that there are other mitigating situations that push someone to be homeless or in that particular society. And we even find even those guys who are homeless, because they've been fortified in this philosophy and they're pursuing the same ideals that are parallel to the philosophy, actually sometimes blame themselves for being homeless. And they're convinced that their turn will come. They must wait for their time. They will be successful as long as they're working hard. I think I'll stop there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Clarified things.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sister Tapo. I think you're raising a very important moment, because when we talk of our, it depends on which philosophy once again. And each philosophy a society picks, what will be the challenge to my side I will be throwing is, if that is what probably we call now the capitalist ideology that is either streaming from idealism as a philosophy can do, then what will be our materialism philosophy that can neither be rooted in whatever we call sometimes Ubuntu, communalism, or socialism? What will it be like? What ideals can it then? Because the key issue here is that it lays down certain ideals. So what ideals will be the opposite of the capitalist to what we want as Africans? What will be the ideals that this lay down? And it's very important also to bring the element of the functions of that philosophy, because that political philosophy will lay down the ideals. So if you're using idealism, you know the ideals you'll come up with. If you are a materialist, you know the ideals you come up with, and that ideals is for our pursuit and fortification. So it becomes that instrument that unites us. So maybe if we talk in the broader perspective in the Pan-African scope and the Pan-African struggle, what is the ideal? And go back first of all, if it stems from the philosophy as the bigger body there, then you go probably to an ideology. What now will be the ideals that will unite us as a people? Just a question for your own digestion and your thoughts as well. But I think that should be a very important thing that we need to look at there and maybe pick up from there. I'm looking at my list. I'm only having 2 people who haven't spoken. And maybe if there are other people who want to come in, you can feel free to come in. But let me know if you're in a position to speak. Nokia C10, I did forget your name, or you can change your name, but I think you had said your name before. And also our comrade Eric Ogwang. If you wish to share something at this particular moment, just feel free. And then we can go ahead as well. We still have around 24 minutes to go. Any of you? Nokia or Brother Eric, anything if you want to say anything?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope I am clear because my network is not stable this evening.
You're very clear.
Okay, then that's good. Yeah, I must say I am once again glad because, I'm sitting in with you people for the first time from Uganda. Now, for the first time, I have seen, let me use Elder Sam as a model for this evening. He has tried to really use the basic terms as possible, starting from defining philosophy and how philosophy can then come in to affect the the society in between. I know there are a lot of things he talked about, but I can summarize that way. Now, in the definition, me, I'm interested in only, there are only two parts. That very first definition bit of it, then coming down to the philosophy, laying down certain ideals for our pursuit and fortification. Of course, I'm still going to use this approach that philosophy being a systematic study. Let me hope I'm getting it right. A systematic study of certain fundamental questions. Then he said it's a broader knowledge. It's broad. Then when we talk about now ideology, it means we are zeroing down to the society. Now to me, coming down, I wanted us to, there is this other guy who was really puzzled about the question of fortification and I think unity. Yeah? Hello?
Yeah, that is Brother Welcome from Namibia.
Yeah, because now I wanted us to look at an ideology as I remember one time I attended a certain lecture and the professor that was talking to us, actually teaching us, for him he used this phrase. He said, an ideology is a weapon. And it's a weapon that can go as far as possible, even in the enemy half. Assuming now I am here in Uganda and what I believe in, I'm convicted by the values that, you know, I believe that are the right values really. And if I get a chance to put them across, you find it infecting someone from Ghana, someone in Accra, someone in Scotland will be agreeing with me. So these forms are very good foundation. So an ideology, according to him, becomes a weapon. And now these, remember, these are values that people are holding on so dearly and they believe in it. So to them, it becomes something that they really front it. And something to that there are people that are the face of such. If I remember also, I think should be the first paragraphs before this one we are reading, before these highlighted ones. There's a phrase only that I think maybe you will help me, but I'm with a notebook. I wrote it somewhere down here that it is about a revolution, saying every true revolution is a program which is derived from a new, general, positive, organic people. And about that, the first necessary thing.
Sorry. Organic principle, not people. Principle.
Organic principle. Yeah. Organic principle. And that the first thing is to accept the principle. Yes, it is principle now. Yeah, I get it in this other line. That the first thing is to accept that principle and its development to be confined, to be kept only to the men who are believers in it. Meaning, there are people that form the face. I don't know whether I am going too fast. I don't know. I will in the next. Sorry?
We're listening, thank you.
Yeah. So now, having people that are the face of that ideology, because if we are talking about the political philosophy, there is materialism and the idealism that okay, in the world of today, I think they can say let me say, let me use the word, the far right and the left, the far, something like that, the left wing and the, you know, you find that by what people believe in, by what people feel is right, according to Elder Sam, when he was talking of bringing the element of the ethics, people feel something is right because they have believed in it, because you have spoken from Uganda and you've won the heart of someone in Malawi. So you feel that is right. And then you are united, unity for purpose in that line. And then people fight for such a thing. People fight for what they believe in. To me, I think these forms the fortress, like these forms a kind of solidarity, a sense of unity in a people, that they are so much united and they can stop at nothing in getting what they want. But me, what interests me all the more is that if you have a society believing in materialism and the other society believing in idealism, along the way, you will find that these people will go extreme. Extremity will come in. But then there should be a guiding star, like the magnetic north. There should be something bringing the people to something that is, I am bringing in the intersection again, because I believe left or right, the intersection has to be there. And this now, according to Elder Sam, I think it is now the ethics. What is morally right or wrong, good or bad? So for some reasons you find people will have to negotiate. Anyway, I think it is a delicate balance when it comes to such a point, but about what unites people really, it is what people have believed in. It is a faith developed on something that unites people. If you feel it is ideology, it is an idea. You know, that philosopher says that everything existing can be summarized as spirits and their ideas, or reduced to spirit and their ideas. Then so be it. That one forms the unity.
Hello? I can't hear you, brother.
I think we've lost you.
Okay, it's frozen. Okay. Okay, I think when he comes back, we may be able to give him time. Brother, come in.
Yeah, Brother Pigeon, my power is now very low. I'm going to go off air in a moment. I wanted to draw our brother's attention to the fact that yes, materialism and idealism, as he said, in terms of politics, can be seen as a left wing and a right wing. Be that as it may, consensusism does not subscribe to hardcore materialism. So when it comes back and I'm off, you can remind him that the position of consensusism is that for us, materialism, we acknowledge spirits and ideas, we acknowledge what some would call consciousness. We are not from the extreme camp. As Africans, we accept that consciousness is an important part of our life. So if you can just mention that to him. And when he says that, I don't know whether it is philosophers or lecturers who have said that everything can be reduced to ideas and spirits, remind him that all he's saying is.
I'm hearing you.
Oh, he's gone. Can I
Okay,
have
brother.
John, please?
Brother Com is frozen, but I think what Brother Com was explaining is that the key question that I explained before is that we know that philosophy is the love of wisdom. And therefore you inquire everything about the society. And Nkrumah starts the first chapter by inquiring what is the universe and what is it made up for. So that builds your first understanding of the universe. And on how you view the universe, it then informs your philosophy. Do you view the universe as an idealist and spiritualist universe made of ideas and spirits? Or do you view the universe as a natural universe, with this basic law being matter? In that particular moment, then you take the materialist position. Now, what happens is that, and what Brother Kwame was trying to explain, is that consciousism is a philosophy and ideology for decolonization of Africa. And therefore, consciousism, according to Nkrumah analysis, do not take the right far or the left far. So consciousism is coming in to be the compromise you're talking about, brother, in terms of how do you now bring the convergence of the dialectics. And consciousism is trying now to start analyzing, and what Nkrumah is doing, is trying now to analyze this spirit and this matter. And Nkrumah says, because you see, the hardcore materialists don't believe in the existence of spirits at all. While the hardcore idealists also don't factor much of the material being of it. Now, Nkrumah says, matter is not the only reality, which means by that statement, we recognize the existence of consciousness, the spirits and ideas. But Nkrumah says that matter is not the only reality, but it is the primary reality. Now, when you bring the element of primary and not the sole reality, in fact, use the word sole reality, you narrow down to an element that, yes, it means that by the virtue that matter is the primary, then what are the secondary? If you use the process of secondary and tertiary and everything you want to talk about, Nkrumah goes ahead now to start analyzing. And it's trying to analyze this key contention between materialists and idealists. And he says that in matter, and we went extra mile to describe what is matter. And some people say, of course, anything that occupies space and have mass, that's the general explanation. But do you think spirits or ideas do not occupy space? Do you think they don't have mass? So Nkrumah says that then there's what he calls a categorical conversion. And he used an example of how you can change something from solid to liquid to gaseous state. That which is gas as a vapor is still water. So the fact that it is a gas does not make it out of being a water. It is still water, but existing in a gaseous state. The fact that it is a liquid do not take it away from what is solid. So it is the same material we are talking about, but it has now assumed a different state. Now, Nkrumah says, from matter, and view matter, for example, even a person, from a human being, there comes what you call the brain. And from the brain, there comes what you call the thinking. And therefore, the mind that does the minding sometimes cannot be physically detached, but it exists in the brain. And therefore, thinking is still a process of the brain, which is physical, but now in a different state. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that it stands alone as a thinking. It originates from somewhere. Now, Nkrumah goes back to what you call even spirituality, which people believe that either spirituality or spiritualism of a person comes from the soul. But where is that soul? It must be in a certain physical part of the body. And therefore, then there is no distinction between materialism and spiritualism. It just means that even the spiritualism or ideas only come from a material. You cannot have ideas and spirit without an object, which is physical. So it must have something which is physical. For example, for you to say you are thinking, you must exist as a person when you think. You cannot be conscious without the physical person who is being conscious. So that diversion is what Nkrumah delved in philosophically and is the biggest topic on this. And therefore, then the position that consciousness takes is not that it opposes the existence of ideas, but it sees it as one within the material. But then the context of what you're saying that everything you can reduce to idea. Can you reduce a human being to idea? Because when you say a human being is an idea, it means that you don't believe it exists, something that in somebody's mind is against what somebody is thinking that there's a human being. But actually, a human being is not an idea. But you can find spirituality in a human being or ideas originating from a human being. So that is the diversion that Nkrumah takes in the position to try to have the convergence between the dialectics, between the far left and the far right. And that brings what you call this so-called materialism and spiritualism, or what you call ideas, exist in one, but they undergo what you call categorical conversion. It's just in a different state, concrete and abstract, but they are one. So I thought that would be very important to extend on what Brother Kwame wanted to mention. So when you come here and you talk about the philosophy from that element, so if you come from that philosophy, you cannot despise spiritualism, you cannot despise idealism or ideas, and that's why Nkrumah goes ahead to now recommend that then a state should be secular. It doesn't mean that the state, if you are to be idealist and spiritualist, you say a state should be an idealist state, like a spiritual state, either Islamic state of such. But being cognizant of everything else, you say that the state should be secular. So it doesn't mean that it opposes the existence of ideas and spirit, but it sees them as part of matter in a different category. Hope this explanation will have helped, because it's an extensive conversation and we are having a few minutes to go. Let me go to Sister Tapua. Sister Tapua?
Thank you very much. I'm looking at, as usual, I'm looking at what this means for us as Pan-Africanists today in the places where we live in Africa as it is. Because if we look at the last sentence, it says, through political philosophy, it lays down certain ideals for our pursuit of and fortification. I'm now taking our pursuit and fortification as our pursuit as Pan-Africanists and fortification, because we need something to become an instrument for us to unite, so that we have the same ideas about the society that we need or that we are working towards. So if we're recognizing what we inherited, the state and the forms of governance that we inherited, that we are aware, for example, that we have materialism and idealism. We know where our African countries are, and we know how far we are in terms of what we're pursuing in terms of politics from Ubuntu and our African consciousness. How are we going to bridge that gap? What is it that we are working towards? So that if we begin to sing from the same hymn book in terms of pursuit and fortification as Pan-Africanists, what is it that we should be talking about? And what is it that we should be working towards?
Thank you. Sister Tapua, I think you are raising a very important question that speaks back to what you're asking is, what will be our ideas? Basically,
yes.
What will be our
yes.
ideals? And if we take the materialism position, which we should be taking as Africans, is that in a materialism position, we first of all look at each other as one, the basic fundamental, we all the same and equal. So the element of equality of us as a people, which actually is rooted in also what you're saying, Sister Tapua, the Ubuntu, I am because you are. If you take that first element that we are equal, irrespective of the gender, irrespective of the age, irrespective of what you call the tribe, education, and everything else, that should be our first idea, the equality in a society, which brings what we call egalitarianism. And therefore, our pursuit for whatever now you call the material well-being, leave the material and philosophical, now what you call the healthcare, the social whatever, education, anything else you want to talk about, our goal of our struggle should be that we should struggle to ensure that every person in a society should live that which I feel that I should live, because we are equal. And that then should be what fortify our pursuit as a society, that injustices, discrimination, hierarchies, and whatever you want to talk about should not be existing in our societies of Africans. And what should exist is that our equality, which will bring our unity together. We are united to fight for our equalness of people in a society. If somebody can afford a chopper, everybody should afford a chopper. There's no need of somebody affording a chopper in a society where somebody cannot afford anything. You see? So that becomes the ideal of our society that we are trying to pursue. And then that also now informs us further on now how do we lay the policies that can help us. Now, consider that as more of our principle, that equality, egalitarianism, as being now our principle. And what sometimes Brother Kwame say that we can compromise on policies, but not on the principle. And what principle is rooted in materialism? Our equality for people. So then what policies will you now come up with to help us ensure that indeed our society is a society where we are equal? Because we are not less a human being because of our gender. We are not less a human being because we are not educated or whatever you want to talk about, irrespective of where we are. Our function in a society, our gender or anything else, we are equal beings. So what policies then do we pursue to help us achieve these common ideals? And that's now what we can discuss on.
Yes, thank you. Because for me, when we're talking about Pan-Africanist ideals, when we're talking about Pan-Africanism, we're talking about helping each other to not define who we are as Africans by our borders. For example, in the last week, I've been listening to a lot of xenophobic ideas coming out from Southern Africa and West Africa, where we are looking at ourselves as, oh, my country is rich in this, your country doesn't have that. Why should we unite? And because people are afraid, people lack direction and understanding of what it is that we are working towards. So my idea is we need to reduce the fear factor. We need to find a way of making people see the advantages and not worry about the borders, because people are now taking the position of the colonialists who were trying to protect their diamonds in South Africa or their gold in Ghana and so on. And they're beginning to say, we don't want any other African to come in because of this. So I think the challenge for us as Pan-Africanists, based on what we've learned today, is to try and work towards making people understand and making people feel comfortable with the idea. Because I listened to Julius Malema getting vilified by South Africans because it was a total misunderstanding. And you actually see that it becomes an encumbrance on how it is we're going to work towards African unity when we actually need to work more with the people to understand what it is we're working towards and why it's an advantage. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I've allowed you at least a 1 minute extra because our time is up. Comrades,
Yes,
we only do 2 hours. Sometimes we might start late, but we always endeavor to end within the 2 hours frame, which is by Kenyan time is 11 a.m., which I believe PM, which I believe is also the Ugandan time. And we will continue from here in our next Thursday reading. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. So we are not in a hurry to finish the book, because this is a heavy text. If some of you can testify, this is a heavy text. It's a philosophical text, and it requires a lot so that you can be able to understand it, to be able to digest it, and to be able to implement it. You might have studied this book before, but as we are saying, it's a heavy one. So let's continue with this reading so that we can be able to move forward together. So we really thank our comrades who have joined us from the UPC. We will be looking forward to engage you further as a political function on how we can also advance the philosophy and ideology and bring the bridge between what we are having as a struggle between the far left and the far right. So comrades, thank you very much. We are looking forward to this Saturday. Probably this Saturday we had a request from KNNI, which is the Kwame Nkrumah Institute of Ideology, to co-host the Kwame Nkrumah Earth Day, which is the birthday of Kwame Nkrumah. You know, it's coming on 21st. So we might have that session going this Saturday, and therefore we might not continue with our usual part 2 of indigenous knowledge, which we were planning to do. And therefore we will either push that indigenous knowledge system part 2 to next Saturday. But this Saturday, we are looking forward to Kwame Nkrumah Earth Day. I'll continue to share more of what Kwame Nkrumah said and this text, and we will share the program, the link, and the invite. We will be hosting that, but it is actually as part of the program organized by Ken and I, and some support from us in terms of hostage and maybe moderation. So, comrades, permit me to thank you for your time. And may you all have a lovely evening. If we manage to meet on Saturday or we meet next Thursday, we will really appreciate. So thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely evening to you all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Good night.